I think USC's dead. I'm just going to say, I think that they're dead. I don't care if they win the Pac-12 with one loss. I don't think they can make the playoffs. I don't give a shit what they do the rest of the way. They fell down in the rankings, and there's just too much in front of them to happen that they need to happen. And I expect that Max or Caleb Williams to have some bad games coming down the road too. You still have to play Oregon and Washington back-to-back weekends. You play Utah this weekend, not a bad defense. So I think the USC Trojans are dead. I'm seeing 3 or 4 losses on their schedule.
All About the Balls podcast
With Mark Davis, Chris Meinhardt, Luke Rule, and Nick the Doc Skirkowitz. Welcome to All About the Balls podcast. I'm Mark Davis in the Sack House with Nick the Doc Skirkowitz. It's me and him tonight. It's like a rotating doors of me and another person. Luke, unfortunately, same thing happened to Doc last night. Some things came up last minute. Didn't plan for it, so the show must go on. No Chris. We were anticipating that, like I said, for the whole week. But Doc, we're about to break down some college football. Florida State coming off a blowout win over Syracuse. Now they get to travel to the Duke Blue Devils, a ranked Duke Blue Devils too. Big game. How are you feeling heading into this week of college football?
You know, I'm thrilled, honestly. I mean, Florida State has looked exactly how I wanted to look. You know, there's been some, a couple close games this year, but we've handled everything. Clemson was probably the closest game of the year, and I said going into it that it was going to be a hard-fought win. But, Syracuse, another sleeper team that's put work on us in the past. But nice to come out and finally see the Seminoles handling business like they used to do on both sides of the football. So very excited. Honestly, not even worried about Duke this week. Not even worried about it.
And I was wrong. You guys aren't traveling to Duke. Duke's traveling to you guys. They are number 16, and they are coming to Tallahassee. For some reason, I kept thinking that you guys are going to Duke this year. Not sure why. But Doc, Texas, coming back off a bye week. We did lose to Oklahoma, 34-30. Understandable. We lost to a good team. Not saying Oklahoma's shit. But now we get to go to Houston. We get to go down the road and play old Houston. First time and the only time the Big 12 is a conference game for the two of us because we know we'll be in the SEC next year. So if we see them, we won't see them in the Big 12. Yeah, we won't see them in the Big 12 title game, so this is probably the only game we will see them in the Big 12. And we are 23.5-point favorites. Not sure if we cover the spread. Honestly, don't give a shit. As long as we win by double digits, I don't care. As long as Quinn Ewers has a bounce-back game from his sluggish start in the first half against Oklahoma, I'm happy. But, the whole making to the Big 12 title game starts now. We have to run the table, essentially. We have to go in here, win each game at a time. We have 6 games to win, and then we get to play Oklahoma hopefully again, and then, hopefully the rematch is there and we have a chance to get to the playoffs. But it starts now. You have to look at 1 week at a time. And I think the real reason, Doc, real quick, Luke couldn't make it is because UCF is playing at Oklahoma, number 6 ranked Oklahoma. And somehow OU is only 19-point favorites. I think that the Vegas bettors are being just a little generous towards UCF. But, yeah, I think Luke was just a little nervous to talk Oklahoma and UCF tonight.
Yeah, I think wholeheartedly he believes they're coming out. UCF is winning this football game, and any football mind in the world knows that's not going to happen. But I think he believes. So good on him. I mean, yeah, trust in your team. A lot of misplaced trust, I think. But the downfall of having to face that pick, I think it was going to be too much for him.
I don't think he truly believes it. I think he's just speaking it into existence so that if it does happen, he's like, yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I've heard some wilder predictions from him. So I think picking UCF and then seeing him come out and get fucking shattered by 30, I think it makes for a tough show next week.
Yeah, they might be shattered by 30 by the first half. I mean, let's see what Oklahoma can do if Dylan Gabriel even plays the whole game. I mean, he could be done literally by halftime. But also Chris's team, the LSU Tigers, hosting the Army team out there. They have a cool I don't know if you saw the picture that Chris sent. They have the LSU end zones are going to be ammo, like camouflage, essentially. So honoring Army as you play the University of Army. So, and Army does play some of these Power 5 teams tough. They might not win, but, the whole triple option, it throws us off the Power 5 off because you're not used to it. So
you can stop a run defense. You can stop Army. Or stop – if you got a run defense, you can stop Army.
Yeah, you can. Hey, and shout out to the Air Force, too. They're playing the University of Navy, so the first of these 3 service schools playing each other. So Hopefully, the Air Force this year they take it. They seem like they have a good shot. They are ranked actually number 22 in the
Yeah,
nation.
they've had a
So
good team. They've had a
good for
good
Air
team.
Force. Yeah, but Doc, we have a good little schedule to talk here. You know, we have some big games that we're going to talk about from last week. We got the game of the week: Penn State and Ohio State and Columbus. So we'll talk that. But let's start off. Well, we talked about it last week's episode. The University of Oregon Ducks traveling to the University of Washington. And before we talk about the game, that is one of the most beautiful stadium backgrounds I think that's in college football. Having Lake, I didn't realize it until like this past game for some reason. I've never noticed it. What a beautiful setting they have out there in Seattle for the Huskies.
Yeah, that game. I mean, everything about that game. Happy to see that game during the day too. That was an incredible atmosphere. Good to see everybody coming alive in the late afternoon. It's kind of that. It was kind of that atmosphere you only see at night. But they came together and saw in the afternoon. It was an electric game. It was an electric crowd. It was everything about that game. It was probably one of the most fun to watch all year long.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I thought, I mean, hats off to Washington that they won the game. They were the better team at the end of the day. I think they outcoached Oregon, but I think Oregon outplayed them. Just similar to the Texas-Oklahoma game. Texas, I thought, truthfully outplayed Oklahoma, but outcoaching for Oklahoma Sooners. Now, I think Oklahoma played a little better. I mean, it might have been more balanced than that, but I think Oregon, they outgained them in yards. The coaching calls, at the end of the first half, they're on the 3-yard line. They were down by 4 points, I believe it was, and they decided to go for it rather than kick a field goal, go by 1. I'm okay with it. Like, you take a lead like that instead of being down by 1. I'm okay with whatever. And that 4th down call at the end of the game too. I was just watching it again. I didn't realize that they were on the 47 of Washington, and it was in like no man's land. They had a little over 2 minutes left. So, hey, you get a first down, you milk the clock out, you win the game. Or if you miss it, then you're giving the Huskies short field. But Oregon had a chance to still win the game or tie it, and they missed the field goal to tie it to go to overtime.
Yeah, it was really frustrating to see how well Oregon was playing and the play calling. I can't argue being aggressive. I mean, I can in all of those and in some of those situations. I mean, yeah, some of them you got to do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, I mean, there were 2 field goals. You take the points, and you're already set up in a better position. And coming in with those leads, changes the gameplay for Washington. Makes Washington come in, changes up their play calling, their aggressiveness, how they're executing. So, when you're playing behind, it's a different ball game. So, really disappointing, honestly, to see Oregon coming out and the play calls made. That's a game that they absolutely should have won. And I think the coach, the first one of the game, coach came out and said, yep, we're playing aggressive. I get it. And then I think it was like trying to compensate since you missed the first one, you're trying to make it up. And then you're in this position where you're constantly trying to make up points for what you've missed. And now it just becomes a game-long theme.
Yeah, that's the one I missed. I'm sorry. The last one, I felt like they had to go for it just because it was the end of the game and they were up. And then if you punt it, yeah, that's great. But the second one is the one I missed. Yeah, like you were saying, Doc. I think that's the one that they should have kicked the field goal on. It was 4th down and 3 from the 8-yard line. And you make it, then it's a 29-21 game. You're only down 8. But after that, Oregon did turn it around. That was like literally what turned the team around. They forced a 3-and-out literally right after that. And then they went touchdown. And then the last turnover on downs, which was that they were trying to milk the clock out. Oregon or Washington got the 2 quick scores with Penix Jr., who was banged up too. So I respect Michael Penix Jr. and the coach too for Washington. We were saying it on that turnover and downs when they got to the goal line, and they didn't let Michael Penix Jr. throw the ball really. And similar to the Quinn Ewers situation where they ran it 4 straight times. Like right here, it says first and goal, run for 7 yards. Second and goal, run for a loss of a yard. Third and goal, you run for a yard, and then you run it again for it. So, like, you have Michael Penix Jr., who's the Heisman candidate, one of the best QBs this year in college football, and you don't run it with the 4 downs on the goal line. Like, it's just similar to the Quinn Ewers situation. Didn't like it. That was bad coaching. But, hey, Penix proved it the next fucking drive with 2 plays, and they scored literally in 33 seconds. So, I think he put his hat in the Heisman. I think he surpassed Caleb Williams after his poor game and his big game too. I mean, and Bo Nix too. Shout out to Bo Nix too, man. Like, I'm very impressed with both these QBs, and I think that I respect the ratings. Having Oregon just flip with Texas, putting them down 1 spot. You can't really shoot them for that. They lost by 3 points in a hostile environment.
To talk about the Heisman and the quarterback situation, I mean, both these quarterbacks came out, performed well against good defenses, and we've seen the struggle. And we'll get into it. We've seen the struggle with Caleb Williams against anybody that really seems to have any value to him. So uh, I'll save the Caleb Williams for when we get into that.
Yeah. But no, I just think, though, seeing what we see with Oregon and Washington, and I honestly, similar, like I keep comparing to Oregon Oklahoma and Texas. I think this is going to be the Pac-12 championship. I think both teams win out. I believe the Pac-12 plays their championship in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So I expect both these teams, similar to Texas and Oklahoma. Oregon should be a one-loss team heading into Vegas. Obviously, something can happen along the way. The Pac-12 is tough. They have, I think, 5 each ranked opponents left, something like that. That's what I saw. But then you see the Huskies, and it's that situation where who is going to outcoach who's going to outplay who. But the running game, dude, that Bucky Irving kid from Oregon, I know we keep talking about it. He's a fucking baller. He's a little guy, but, dude, he was running hard.
He went off.
Yes, he did. And same thing with Washington. They had a good rushing, or their main back had 5 yards a carry, 20 for 100 yards and a touchdown. So he had a pretty good game as well. But good offensive game. I thought the defenses were a little overshadowed just because of the higher scoring game. But, in college, man, when you have great offenses, sometimes they're just going to score. It's just the way it goes in college. It's not the NFL. So the spread offenses are real. But, no, I'm excited to see the Huskies go down the road, and I'm excited to see Oregon, what they do, how they bounce back for 2023.
Yeah. Looking
best
forward
too, in my opinion.
I think so. I think you nailed it right on the head. Looking forward to see Oregon bounce back into Washington State this week. Going to be fun. I'm very excited to see this conference wrap up towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and I'm excited that I'm right on one prediction this year, and that's Michael Penix Jr. just being a fucking dog, just being the guy that I saw him last year. I know you had a hard time watching him because they didn't have as much highlight games, so you didn't get to see that Michael Penix Jr. hype that was building all year last year just because of the West Coast time, and you're out in the East Coast, so it's hard to stay awake for a fucking 8 o'clock Eastern time, or 11 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock their local time. And shout out to Primetime, too. He's actually right about that. He's like, why are we fucking playing games 8 p.m. our local time, and the East Coast guys can't watch us? He said that last week, too. So I respect Dion for saying that, sticking up for the East Coast boys that watches the game. So, but yeah, all eyes will be on that. And another team, Doc, all eyes are on USC. I really, as soon as I predicted it, Notre Dame was going to win. I didn't think it was going to be a fucking, blowout 48-20, and Caleb Williams having 3 interceptions. Probably could have had a couple more, but, he got credit for 3 on that one. And, God, it was a fucking game. And I think USC's dead. I'm just going to say, I think that they're dead. I don't care if they win the Pac-12 with 1 loss. I don't think they can make the playoffs. I don't give a shit what they do the rest of the way. They fell down in the rankings, and there's just too much in front of them to happen that they need to happen. And I expect that Caleb Williams to have some bad games coming down the road too. You still have to play Oregon and Washington back-to-back weekends. You play Utah this weekend, not a bad defense. So I think the USC Trojans are dead. I'm seeing 3 or 4 losses on their schedule.
No, fucking great defense by Utah. And this is something we've talked about with USC, the last couple of weeks is who this team is defensively. I mean, all eyes been on Caleb Williams and obvious, for obvious reasons, but as a team standpoint, I mean, the defense is where the eyes should be. This, we've talked about that this team has come in here and not performed well defensively, even against, lower ranked teams, lower quality teams. And this is something they've been on upset alert, in my opinion, for several weeks now. And Notre Dame came out with a struggling offense and finally showed what this defense is capable of, and that's blowing big games. USC is a great gunslinging offensive team, and they're going to do great things. They're going to put up points, but at the end of the day, if the defense can't match the energy, I mean, you're in this game, you're not going to win. With a lower offense from Utah, I mean, this defense is solid enough that might be the decision maker for this Utah USC game. I took USC playing at home, but I mean, Utah can absolutely come in and pull this game away from them.
Yeah, and that's the situation too. Is Utah's offense doesn't have to be good. The Irish offense, in my means, they weren't spectacular. They were put in great positions, and you know what? They scored. That's all they had to do was just score in the short fields that they were given. The running back solid. Estimi's a good running back, 22.95. Hartman was just a solid 13 of 20 for 126 yards and 2 TDs. He just did his job. He put the ball in the end zone. He got the running back to get the ball in the end zone. So 4 of their touchdowns were from them too. So, they turned the ball over Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was 23 of 37 for under 200 yards and 3 interceptions and a touchdown. So that's not the Caleb Williams that we're used to. And I know Chris, he sent a photo earlier. He's played 5 top 25 defenses in his collegiate career, and he doesn't have good numbers. It's pedestrian numbers at best. The most he's thrown for is 252 yards, and that was against Oklahoma State, where he went 20 for 39. And granted, that was his first year. He was just thrown into the spotlight as Spencer Rattler did not work for the Oklahoma Sooners. So I can understand the 2021 season. You weren't prepared to be the starter, but now that he was a starter last year and this year, he doesn't have good numbers against those top defenses. And, that he's already having some of his drama. Some things are already speculated from 3 months ago, which I didn't even want to really talk about, because once I started digging into that, it was a bullshit. He wanted to own the team. And then the NFL came out and said, that's not a rule. Like, we can't allow that. So that was buried and then all of a sudden brought back up. But I think USC's dead. I don't think anything they do is going to make me change my mind. Yeah, even if they beat Utah this week, that's great. And maybe they'll beat California. Ooh, whoop-de-fucking-do. But then you got to go Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. So 4 tough games to remain for the USC Trojans this year.
Yeah, no, definitely tough schedule ahead for them, and I think that USC is done for the year. And I think, honestly, aside from performance, everything else going on off the field with Caleb as far as the draft, I think Caleb Williams is done.
You mean like done with USC, or he's just done for he's gonna have a bad season, or like what do you mean by done?
I think a lot of the drama coming up with his dad talking about he may not enter the draft. I think this whole ownership stake thing going on. I mean, this guy's proven to be more drama than what it's worth.
So I mean, I guess guys like maybe Michael Penix, or if Bo Nix wants to come out, or people are hard on Quinn Ewers. I don't think Shador Sanders comes out, and then you have Drake Maye. Like, maybe some of these guys, if they don't have character problems, which I don't think Michael Penix has had anything pop up. So he's a name that has been steadily improving for his draft stock. But I still think Caleb was, I don't say unfortunately, but I think he's going to go number 1 or the first QB off the board. Just, I think his ceiling's a lot higher.
Caleb's only dropping every week.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what he does against these defenses too. And that's the shitty part, is the Pac-12 is so good now. It's like, hey, you're seeing what he's doing against these defenses that are phenomenal. And the NFL is loaded with defenses. So it's like, hey, You're going to have to show something. And you should be showing something. USC is a fucking recruiting pool literally for wide receivers. They get wide receivers left and right. Like, there's no problems with their talent pool out there. Defense, I don't know. Defense, that's a different story. They can't get defense to save their life. Yeah. But nope, I'm excited. I'm a little upset too. I had USC in the playoffs, but hey, I'm excited for the Washington Huskies to get there, or the Oregon Ducks. I've always liked watching Oregon, but I'm high on Washington. Have been the last couple of years. Just something new, I guess, something fresh for the college football nation.
Oh yeah.
But Doc, we're heading into week 8, and it's a big game. We had our Pac-12 battle last week, and we are going to have a couple of these Big Ten battles. But the first Big Ten battle of the year, the Penn State Nittany Lions traveling to Columbus to face the Ohio State Buckeyes. Geary's team. OH. IO. So
yeah, no, I'm not finishing that.
You got to finish it, man. It's just, you got to finish. But anyway, 7 versus 3. Another huge game. I don't think it's going to be game of the year, like we've been hyping up Texas, Oklahoma, and Oregon and Washington. But I think this game is going to have some resemblance to the Notre Dame and Ohio State game. Pretty much a defensive battle. Maybe some more splashes of offense compared to that game. Penn State, I think, does have better offense than Notre Dame. And Ohio State is still Ohio State. They will probably keep up with Penn State no matter what they do. But 4.5-point favorites for the Buckeyes, the home team. I know it's in our pick'ems this week. I have no idea. It's a coin flip game for me right now, Doc, on Wednesday night.
It really is. I think the only thing separating this one is going to be home field advantage. I think Ohio State playing at home may be enough to pull it away. Penn State has had an incredible defense this year, but to be fair, they have played the Massachusetts Minutemen, the Iowa Hawkeyes, who we know are an atrocious team offensively. Delaware was a 60-37 blowout. I mean, the opposition has just not been there for Penn State, which doesn't take away from the fact they still did what they were supposed to do and winning those games big. But I think Ohio State at home going to be tough to win.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State does have that. I think they have an easy schedule besides the Irish. That's the one thing they have going for them. They had to go to South Bend, and they did beat a top 10 ranked Fighting Irish team. But like you said, Penn State's doing what they can do. They've beaten everyone that's been put in front of them. I don't think they've had really a close game whatsoever. I know Illinois was close in the first half, but then they rolled out and they just kept going, didn't look back. But they're averaging under 200 yards a game, Doc, Penn State, for the defensive end. So, or defensive side, you're only allowing 121 passing yards and 72.5 rushing yards. So, and I think and Ohio State's been dealing with injuries too. Henderson's been nicked up. Abuke has been nicked up, the second receiver for Ohio State. So, are they going to be 100% to go? That's big if they aren't, because it's just Marvin Harrison and Kyle McCord. And McCord, we've seen him against the good defenses struggle, Irish and Indiana. So he needs to, and Drew Aller, by the way, Aller from the Penn State Nittany Lions, no interceptions on the year too. So McCord has to outplay Drew if he wants to win this game, I think.
Yeah. And like you said, a lot of pressure on guys to step up and fill holes for the injuries. So, this is what's going to determine great football teams. And we've seen it with other programs where, they've had injuries, battled through it, and, backups have come in and emerged as leaders. So, time will tell what's going to happen this weekend. Very excited for this game. Going to be a good one. Glad it's an early game. Glad it's an early game to finally, be able to see that one all the way through. But, yeah, excited. It's going to be a good game.
I'm rooting so hard for Penn State. Like, I might be screaming the whole fucking day, "We are," and I'm just going to be screaming like someone's there behind me screaming Penn State. I would love to see the Lions come in here and just absolutely take Ohio State out and take out Michigan when they have to play them too. I want to see Penn State win the Big Ten. I've been waiting for years for them to finally break through. I know we keep every year. It's like, hey, this is Penn State's year. This is the best team Penn State's had. They had Saquon Barkley one year. I'm forgetting the other running back. I'm drawing a blank on him who followed him, but they've had some teams in the past. I want to see Penn State finally fucking win the Big Ten. Do something. I know Ohio State was running for so many years. Now Michigan's been the kings of the Big Ten, but I want to see the Nittany Lions finally reach this potential that they have.
Yes, sir.
And fuck Ohio State, right?
Fuck Ohio State.
Yeah, that's the attitude. That's the attitude we want to see. You better not pick them this week then, Doc.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I know. It's tough. It's tough to go against Ohio State.
I got to make a business decision.
It's tough. It's tough to pick against them, literally. And then, Doc, we mentioned Drake May earlier about his draft stock going up and Caleb Williams is going down. And, UNC, it was a close one for a little bit against Miami. I know it was a 10-point game. Miami did score a late touchdown, but they finally got Tez Walker, their transfer, involved a little more. I know he's finally playing now for the Tar Heels. But, now North Carolina is 10th in the nation. They went up 2 spots. Are the Tar Heels and Drake May the real fucking deal? Like, is this a team that Florida State should be looking out for? Because obviously they'll play each other in the title game if they both get there. And should the rest of the nation kind of keep an eye out for North Carolina?
I mean, UNC, as far as the ACC goes, I think the ACC needs to be worried about UNC. I mean, they're coming out putting up over 500 yards a game offensively. Does the nation need to be worried about UNC? I'm not quite sure it's there yet. Tez Walker, like you said, is finally back from injury and able to play with Drake May. But, the numbers were still there before Tez Walker, came back. But the defense is still a lot of desire to be had, a lot of question marks there. Giving up over 350 yards a game. Miami, good team. Syracuse, they blew out, a lot of yards given up against Pitt, Minnesota, Appalachian State, especially going to double overtime there. So, like I said, a lot of question marks on defense. I think that this team is getting better. I'm going to be concerned what this team does without Drake May when he finally moves on. But, that'll tell whether UNC is turning into a real powerhouse in this conference or if they're just is, hey, Drake May is here like the Louisville of old that we saw with Teddy Bridgewater and Lamar Jackson. So, time's going to tell.
I mean, they do have Mac Brown, which I'm biased as can be. I mean, he's a former Longhorn and former Tar Heel, too. It's where he started before Texas. But no, I don't know if it's like watch out, like you said, watch out for the nation. I think the ACC, I mean, really just Florida State needs to watch out for him. I don't think anyone else after this Miami game they just played is going to stand a chance. Now, do they pull a North Carolina and fuck up somewhere? Yeah, very possible. That's what they do best. But no, Drake May's averaging over 300 yards a game. You know, that's pretty good through 6 games of his this season. I think he's also looking ahead too. I mean, obviously his stock is rising, like I said. So I think Drake May's the real deal. I like this kid. I like Tez Walker out there for the North Carolina Tar Heels. I think it's a good weapon. Their running back is doing pretty good. He's averaging 5.9 yards a carry. So their offense is not missing a beat. Like you said, though, Doc, it's the defense. Can the defense make enough plays to bail out the offense and not put so much pressure on the offense of North Carolina? But no, I think that North Carolina going forward, I think they're going to have a solid season. And I'm excited for it. Like I said, I'd love it when it's balanced. It makes me want to be a college football fan thick and thin. Essentially, like I want to see them and not just them, other teams come out. Like it's good. Like I don't like Florida State, like as like I'm a fan, but it's good to see them back. Like it's something new again. Like they sucked for so many years. It's good they're back now. Like I don't want to see like an Alabama or now Georgia just run the fucking league. So it's good to see North Carolina potentially though. I don't think they're the real deal though. I think Drake May's the real deal. I just think he's maybe dragging them along with him. Yeah, he's dragging them on his back essentially.
UNC would not be where they are without Drake May.
No, I mean Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry, Pickett was Pitt. Sam Howell. Sam Howell was supposed to be the guy that brought them over the map, and he came back for that last season, and that last season hurt his stock. If he would have gone out the year before that, he probably wouldn't have top 2 rounds of the draft pick. So, but yeah, they haven't had anything since Sam Howell, and it's good to see North Carolina. They're not known now for just a basketball school, playing some football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good year for the ACC.
I mean, honestly, good year for all these conferences. I know Big 12's only got 2 teams, but your 2 teams are the fucking like they're blue bloods essentially, the teams that you expect to be good. Texas and Oklahoma. The SEC's got a few that are hanging around. The Big 10's just got their 3. The Pac-12's got their main 2, and then a couple stragglers. And then the ACC, Miami hasn't been bad. They had that stupid loss against Georgia Tech, but besides that, Miami's been pretty solid. Clemson's still pretty good. They just can't win against ranked teams anymore. And then you have Duke, who's up there, and of course the Florida State Seminoles leading the charge. The Florida State Seminoles are back, baby.
Yeah, Florida State's back, but another situation, same as UNC. That defense is got a lot of question marks behind it. Duke's coming in with a high-powered rushing game that's coming up against a rather weaker rushing defense. So, this is absolutely a game that Duke can come in and take over, but you just got to hope a night game in Tallahassee and Florida State's going to come on top.
Damn, it is a night game. I didn't see that it was a primetime game. Damn, it's going to be a ruckus environment for the Duke Blue Devils out there in Tallahassee. Also, Doc, Alabama is hosting Tennessee, and you remember last year, Hendon Hooker had an electric game against Alabama. It was literally a fucking back and forth game between the 2 of them. So now it's Milton versus Milroe, and 17th ranked Tennessee, 11th ranked Alabama. Tennessee's playing for the SEC essentially. So we'll have to see what's going to go on here with Alabama and Tennessee. I hope the Volunteers do win though. Actually, no, I want to see Alabama win.
I'm pulling for the Volunteers. Fuck Alabama. They have been an extreme disappointment this year. Nick Saban is losing his mind down there in Alabama. Tennessee, biggest problem seen with Tennessee is just the consistency this year. I mean, they're putting up the numbers, they're making plays, but it hasn't been consistent enough to convince me that they're capable of doing anything. So I'm pulling for Tennessee, but I think Alabama takes this one.
Only pulling for Bama because I need them to stay relevant. So Texas, obviously, I have it for bias reasons. I need them to win for us. Yeah. Let's do some fantasy though real quick, Doc. We have some starts and sits, and I'll start off. If Jahmyr Gibbs is playing for the Detroit Lions this week, no David Montgomery. I'm not saying Gibbs is out there, but if he's there, start him. He hasn't been the main back, but he's averaging almost the same amount of yards per carry as David Montgomery. They're just riding David Montgomery, and it's not a bad thing. It's working. But start Jahmyr Gibbs. He'll be involved in the passing game. We saw what Craig Reynolds did last week when he stepped in. He had a couple good catches. So I say start Jahmyr Gibbs against Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a tough game. They're going to need Jahmyr Gibbs if he's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Jahmyr Gibbs, big-time play for the Detroit Lions. Man, I'm looking through it as far as starters go. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of guys this week that I'm looking to sit. I mean, big question marks with Montgomery and McCaffrey, but obviously we're not going to know that until
Well,
later in
Montgomery's
the
out.
week.
Montgomery's been ruled out. It's CMC that it's tough because it's Monday night game. So it's like, do you risk playing it? If you don't have his backup, you might have to sit him unless you hear something positive on Friday and Saturday. You just might.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be a game time decision, but still a lot of worry there.
I do say sit. I say sit Jonathan Taylor, Doc. We haven't seen him show his potential yet. I know he got paid. He sat out on IR the first 4 weeks. Zach Moss has been productive, and they're playing against the Cleveland Browns. So I say sit Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, my start's going to be go with all Rams wide receivers. I mean, not as much what we expected last week, but even with Cooper Kupp back, I mean, Atwell, Puka, both still making big plays, getting numbers. It's just a matter of how they're going to spread out the touchdowns.
Yeah, and Doc, I think your boy Geno Smith, I think he's a start this week. I think having such a shit game against the Bengals and then playing against the Arizona Cardinals, they're going to be at home. Kenneth Walker and Geno Smith are two of my starts, which means DK Metcalf. So I say start the whole trio. If you have all three of them, fucking start them because I think Geno's going to have a bounce-back game. If you have a QB on a bye week, put Geno in. I think he bounces back big time against the Cardinals. They've been getting lit up, by the way, their defense has. So expect Geno Smith. Hey, and if you have Kyler Murray out there too, Doc, in any of your leagues, start to pick him up because he got activated this week. Well,
hey,
practice.
He's almost ready to go.
Yeah. So if you have any guys out there you guys want to, also sit DJ Moore because no Justin Fields, unfortunately. So
yes. I didn't mean to mention that.
Yeah, I hate to see it. But, Doc, great episode. I'm glad that me and you could talk some college real quick. Even though it was only like 30 minutes. Hey, better than no minutes, in my opinion. So
in college, glad to get anything we can with college.
Can't wait to watch the Penn State and Ohio State game, too. Our good luck, Chris, against Army. Luke, sorry, I don't think any luck's going to work because Oklahoma's going to win easily. And, Doc, big game. All eyes will be at the 7:30 start time for Florida State and the Duke Blue Devils. And
hey, man, horns up.
Yeah, horns up this week, baby. We're playing Houston, playing the Cougars. So can't wait to see some Quinn Ewers. Hopefully he bounces back. But also shout out to you, Jonathan Brooks. You made the AP midseason All-American slot. I don't know if it's an actual confirmed thing, but ESPN's been posting it. So it seems like it's I guess not official, like he's an All-American, but through the midseason, they saying he is the number one back in college. So good to see some Texas running backs back up there. But Doc, good luck this week. Thanks for being on the show. I'm Mark Davis.
Same to you.
This is All About the Balls podcast, and we are out. Thank you for checking out another episode of All About the Balls podcast. We want to thank all of our listeners and supporters of the Sack House. You can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at the Sack House.